Welcome back to the Tracy Take. I am Tyler here with my brother Ryan, and today we are doing the Atlanta Falcons 7-round mock draft. It's the last Falcons mock draft of the entire offseason so far, as we're only a couple weeks away from the 2024 NFL draft. Before we get into that breakdown, what's also right around the corner is the NBA and NHL playoffs. And if you like putting a couple bucks down on those games while you're watching the first round, second round, and the NBA championship, be sure to click this link down below. BetUS is doing a great promotion for all of its first-time players of 125% match for their first three deposits. So take full advantage of that promotion. Check out their link down below. While you're at it, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel to get notified whenever we create new content. Trying to get to 3,000 subscribers by the NFL draft, and we are just about 150 away or so, so any help is greatly appreciated. Ryan, let's pull up the Atlanta Falcons here. So Falcons have made big moves in the offseason so far. Probably the biggest, I would say, the free agents just in general. Maybe I'm a little biased, but the Kirk Cousins signing, at minimum, it's top five. They've made a lot of moves specifically in the receiver spot as well. And so one of the things as well that I think that they're going to do is I think they are going to trade back. Maybe if Rome Odunze falls or if Malik Neighbors falls, maybe they go and get them just because of what they've done in the past, best player available mentality. And I think that would just be great fits overall. Great compliments to Drake London. But in our draft, it went the first three quarterbacks and the first three receivers and the first six picks. So all those guys were gone. And so sitting here, I'm very curious. Falcons fans, let me know what your thoughts are on this trade. More and more I think about it, I love this trade. I will gladly sacrifice the 79th pick so that we can go move up into the first round here and go get a first-round player at a position I think that we also need to really address as well. You still get a trade back and you get the draft capital. Maybe we get a future pick in like next year's draft, Minnesota, like maybe another day three just to make it equitable in draft classes. And then also gives us more draft capital for future drafts. So maybe we could throw that in there. We did this just because the way the points worked out and that we didn't really know how then the future draft picks go as well. So we'll have to kind of go and see. I also think it works out for Minnesota as then they would get day two picks as they wouldn't if they give up their 11. They wouldn't have any picks till the fourth round. So what the Vikings did with their picks, they trade up, got McCarthy, then they get Devondre Sweat, and then Cooper Beebe, interior offensive lineman at 79. I don't really think those players would be too much in the wheelhouse for what the Falcons would be going for. But let's move on to their first overall pick. So they trade back to 11, and they go and get Jared Verse here at edge rusher. This is one of the reasons, too, I think, for Falcons fans that we're looking at as it's like so many teams are going to want to move up and go get a quarterback. And guys like, I don't want to speak for all Falcons fans, but I would be perfectly fine with Dallas Turner, Jared Verse, Latu, whichever one they feel is the guy. Like, I trust them. I think they've hit some of these first-round picks out of the park over the past couple of years, in my opinion. So if they're fine with any of those guys, and then they go and get Jared Verse, they move back a couple picks, also can move up into the first round from the second round, go get a guy like Jared Verse. I'm so far in loving this move.
Yeah, and that for me, I think if you look at what the Falcons have lacked, they had Calais Campbell last year, but after Grady Jarrett went down, that pass rush really took a hit, and I think kind of dispersing some of the pass rush needs across the rest of the defensive line, I think would be really impactful. Also, you think about what Grady Jarrett was doing with the amount of attention that he was getting. Now you put a first-round edge rusher outside of him, and I think that just makes him even more disruptive there in the middle. And then, again, that allows the secondary to play even more aggressive than they already do and probably will under Raheem Morris. So I really like this move. You move down, you get arguably like the 1A, 1B edge rusher in this class.
Yeah.
And I think you move on from that. And also the first draft of the Raheem Morris era is a defensive player. I think that's fitting.
Well, and that's the thing, too, from everything that I've heard and everything that you just see with Raheem Morris is he's such a player's coach, and I think guys love playing for him. So you get a guy like Jared Verse, who was also very well respected in the Florida State locker room. He even came back. He would have been a top 15 pick last year's class. But he's like, no, I want to come back. I want to win a championship. Some Florida State people maybe have an opinion on how the playoffs went down. So we won't address that. Hopefully we can get y'all a Super Bowl here. But you go get a guy like Jared Verse. He's got that motor. I think learning from him, Raheem Morris, hypothetically, let's say if we can also get Calais Campbell for one more year again, bring him back, and then you have him learning from there. Who knows? We just say, and I saw one comment as well in our Falcons videos. It was like drafting edge rushers as a is a curse. And like, I agree. So let's trade back. Let's
then
not pick an 8.
Yeah.
And then let's get an edge rusher. So, but I think the thing to me, this one made sense. We go get edge rusher. But one of the things I think I really liked about then the trade with Minnesota, if we could get that 23rd pick, and this is where I'll gladly give up the 79th pick as well. We can now move up because one of the other positions that we need is going to be outside corner as well. Clark Phillips, I think, is just too small, but I think he's good enough. Like, you put him in a nickel corner. I think we go and get Nate Wiggins here. We go and get another Clemson corner that we've had some success with, I'd say, drafting from that university. Pair him up then with A.J. Terrell. I think he's been one of the top corners. We've been talking about him this entire offseason so far. Other guys have moved up, yes. And so maybe there's some of that overall draft hype as well, like with a guy like Quinton Mitchell, so to say. Like, maybe he won't be taken at 13 overall, which I believe that's where he was taken in this class, in this draft. But still, outside corner here, I think in these top 4 to 5 corners are significantly better, and I think have higher ceilings than that next wave of guys who we've been drafting at 43 overall for the Falcons. So I think this trade works out for the Falcons, where you still get trade back, and then you move up into the first round. You get that 5th-year option control over Nate Wiggins. And then hypothetically, if A.J. Terrell moves on or retires, and then you're still there with him in that first – we're talking years down the road now. You'll still have that extra year of control as well. And so I really like this trade. There's some other guys, like if they'd want to go and get center, because I know that's a big weakness as well. Jackson Powers-Johnson falls down to 23. That could also be a potential option. I actually really love that as well. What are your overall thoughts on the Falcons trade?
Yeah, I mean, I think you go and you solidify your pass rush with the first pick, and you solidify your secondary with the second pick, and you have a really, really well-rounded defense here because, like you said, they have Jesse Bates on the back end. You get 2 outside corners. Clark Phillips showed a lot of potential last year. Nate Landman at the linebacking group played really well. And then you go Jared Verse, Grady Jarrett, maybe bring back Calais Campbell, and that's a top 5 defensive unit in the NFL, especially when it's led by Raheem Morris, who got a lot out of a little last year in LA. So I really like that move. And then, like, on the offensive side of the ball, you have Kirk Cousins, and I think the Falcons are a real contender now, going and getting 2 defensive starters right away. So,
addressing multiple levels, and we're fine. To me personally, I think we're fine in the linebacking room. So I think we're addressing key needs on the defensive side of the ball to help kind of keep improving. And so now with this, they don't have a 2nd-round pick. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on what would be an equitable trade with the Vikings there, if we maybe even get like a 2025, like day 3 pick.
I think I really think you guys got 11 and 23. I think even getting away with 79 and not 74, I think is. I know that's splitting hair, but. Like, I think that's already fair.
Vikings need to move up more than we need to move back. So I was like, we're going to keep 74. We're going to pick in front of them.
Well, yeah, but I think you guys are already on the upper end of that trade.
Oh yeah, no. So I agree. And so they don't have a 2nd-round pick. Let's move to the 74th pick here. And I was debating in my head, and Cedric Von Pron, he's supposed to go to Denver, so that was a typo. So I apologize on that. But I was going back and forth between center or receiver here. And we went with Cedric Von Pron at 79th overall in our 3-round mock draft. I really like that pick overall. But I decided to go with receiver here and go with Troy Franklin when it came up to their time to pick. Just because I think one of the issues also as well last year is you had Drew Dahlman, who is a younger center. I still need some time. But then you also had Desmond Ridder running the offense, he didn't have the best control over the offense and calling blocking schemes. We now have Kirk Cousins, who is very much a veteran quarterback as well. I think he's very knowledgeable in the blocking schemes, reading defenses, and getting guys to do the correct blocks as well. So I think that's going to help out a bunch in Drew Dahlman's development. Maybe they still go center here, go get a guy like the Cedric Von Pron. I think if we go get a receiver here, and there's such a deep receiving class, we end up going with Troy Franklin, who was still on the board, but other guys that kind of went around that spot. Brendan Rice was taking just a couple picks before that. I'm looking at it. Tez Walker was right after Brendan Rice. A couple guys, Jermaine Burton was taken next. Jermaine Burton, I think, would be a great compliment as well. We're just looking for good number 2 receivers here to go along with Darnell Mooney, Rondell Moore, Ray McLeod. I think he's going to be more of a special teams kind of guy, replacing Cordell Patterson. But I think Troy Franklin, I know, Ryan, he's kind of fallen on your draft board a little bit. I still think he has a lot of promise, but I think too with his role within Oregon as well. I think he would complement Drake London a bunch with this offense.
Yeah, and I mean, he is a shifty, speedy guy, and part of the reason why I'm so down on him was one, he came in super light to the combine, and he looks frail on tape, and he moves weird on tape. It doesn't look right. He's choppy in and out of his routes. And then I think you go and you look, and his combine numbers don't support some of the athleticism that you see on tape. He's not a natural hands catcher, but I will say he does on tape separate from corners somewhat well, especially down the field. He wins down the field, and he shows good burst and has good attributes and in that aspect. So I think getting a receiver like that here in the third round is good value. What I didn't like was when people were saying, "Oh, he's going to go like 32nd to the Chiefs," and I'm like, he is not even close to a first round talent.
I really hope that happens now on draft night.
Yeah,
when we're live, and you're going to be just like, "Oh my gosh, why would they draft him?" No, but I think that's interesting too. Where what you see on tape, like what you see doing drills, but then what you see on tape, because it's like at the end of the day, he still had a great career at Oregon. He had a great season at Oregon. So we'll have to kind of go and see. Drake London's the number one guy, so he just needs to be a compliment to that.
Yeah.
Even in two as of right now, Darnell Mooney's the number two guy. Kyle Pitts is. But anyways, so let's move on now to their day three picks. They got 4 day three picks. Tyler Davis, defensive tackle here. Hunter Nordzad. I apologize if I mispronounced that correctly. So addressing interiors on both sides of the ball there. I think one of the things too with Grady Jarrett coming back from his ACL tear, just he is getting up there in age just a little bit. So it's started to replenish some of that depth. I think we've had pretty good success also too with day three defensive tackles from Clemson as well. And then wrapping up in round 6, Miles Cole, edge rusher, and then Travis Glover as well. Once again, just getting more offensive defensive line protection. Because if we're looking at it, we've made a lot of moves in skill position player areas over the past couple of years. I think that we're good there contractually, but also the future prospect wise as well. So just getting as much help on the defensive and just in the trenches just in general.
I like the Travis Glover pick. He is from Georgia State, so like 2 miles from the Falcons Stadium, but he has a nastiness to him. He was a very, very late alternate invite to the Senior Bowl and actually performed pretty well. So I believe Matt Hennessy? Is that the left tackle?
Matt Hennessy, yeah.
He's getting up there in age. And
sorry, not Matt. I thought you meant the center. Jake Matthews.
Jake Matthews. That's right.
Jake Matthews.
Jake Matthews he's been there a long time, and he's getting up there in age. So maybe just going and getting a guy, like throw a late round pick at a guy and see if he can develop into something in a couple years when Jake Matthews is potentially moving on. So all in all, I think the Falcons, they had a really good draft. That trade with the Vikings, I think, really sets them up to go and add 2 real difference makers on the defensive side of the ball. In the beginning, they still get a I would say day 1 rotational wide receiver in Troy Franklin in the 3rd round, and then some good developmental guys on day 3.
Yeah. So I would be happy with that, especially too. I mean, what they do in day 3 is it's going to depend on who they really like here. But I think in those first 3 picks, I would be satisfied with that, and especially to trading back and then going back up in the first round, having those 2 first round picks, I think would be huge.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and wrap up this mock draft here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on what you thought of this Atlanta Falcons 7-round mock draft. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you do differently? And on that, we will see you guys next time.